Hello, my name is Deb, also known as the Spatially Challenged Knitter, and welcome to my long overdue, sorry about that, fall podcast. And we're going to quickly talk today about some finished knits, some ongoing projects I have, traveling on my latest experience traveling on a knitting trip, and my upcoming plans for traveling on another knitting trip that I'm lucky enough to go on this winter. So if this sounds like something that's interesting to you, grab a project and welcome, and I'll meet you back here in a minute. Thanks. Hi. Well, it has been a while since I did a podcast, and really no reason. I was traveling, I was on a knitting trip, and just kind of had a busy end of summer. And so since it's the beginning of October now, I think it's like the 4th today, I thought I had better get a fall update on some finished projects and what's going on before I get completely behind. So anyway, let's start with finished objects. And my first finished object is the sweater I'm wearing. And this is my Ewe Yoke, and it's EWE, and it's yoke like Y-O-K-E, yoke of a sweater, by Zanete. And I'm going to stand up so you can see a little bit better, and I will put in a couple of pictures that I took of myself in front of the mirror. But I finished. I started this sweater back in, it's like the last week of January or the first week of February, I think, when this started. Because I bought the yarn in New York at Vogue Knitting Live in January, and started it when the clues came out. And then it quickly became a series of challenges for me. Not so much because of the pattern, because I think Zanete did a really good job with her clues. This is a thing where you have no idea what you're knitting. You get a series of clues, and each clue gives you a part of the sweater. So like the first clue, I think, was just this part. Oh, we might have done the braid in the first clue. I'm not sure. It's been a while, so I'm not quite sure. Then the second part, we did the mosaic knitting and the bottom part of the braid, I think. And then the third part was color work. And so we got like part of the chart of the color work. And then we had another clue that had more of the color work. And then we had the braid, the float braid again. And then we had more mosaic, and then another float braid, and then finished with mosaic. So there was a series of decisions that you needed to make. And one of them from the very beginning was the yarn. And I do really like the fact that we were able to make decisions, and she gave us points in the sweater where you could make decisions. So let me pause for a moment. I'm going to, well, maybe I don't need to pull it off. I don't think I do. But I will talk to you about it, and then I am going to take it off because it's October, but October in San Diego is some of our hottest weather usually. And so we're actually getting to our warmest point of the summer right now, which means like we're in the 75s and up along the coast. And so it's actually kind of warm here today, where everybody else is starting to, oh, you know, it's fall, it's cooling down, we can wear our sweaters. And we're like, yeah, it's not so much here. So anyway, I started out by making my first decision, which then consequently change the course of this whole sweater. And this, you'll see if you go to the pattern, a lot of people use color changing yarn, and you were supposed to actually flip the sweater, flip the focus of the sweater, so that you started with what would have been your contrast color, which was my white. And I made a decision that I did not like the color of this yarn. It is polka dot sheep yarn, and it's fingering weight. And I've talked about the colors before. I'll put it in the show notes, and I also will update my Ravelry notes so that this is on here with some pictures of it. But I didn't like the color up against my skin. I thought the white was not a good color for me, but I really liked it with this yarn. But it's a little bit gray in the color. So I decided I was going to do the collar area that's going to be around my face with the green, because I thought that would be, good going against my hair, give me a little bit better of a look than this cream color would have been if I had done the solid cream for the neck. And which meant that in reality, I should have switched this. This is now my main color, and the white was the contrast color. Okay, hold that thought. So I made a decision when I did this. You actually came back and you finished the neck afterwards. She has you cast on and keep your stitches on hold, and you come back and do your ribbing afterward. And she feels like this gives you a little bit more of an idea. Like if you do your ribbing at the top for the collar, and then go down, you don't know how the rest of the sweater is going to lay. This allows you, by doing the collar afterward, to come back and figure out exactly how high you want your neck to be after you've got the shoulders and sleeves completed, or sleeves started. And so it gives you a better idea of the fit. So what I decided to do when I did get to the neck was I didn't like just the single neck coming up, the single layer of ribbing, because the rest of the top of this sweater is color work. And so it's like a DK weight, because it's 2 strands of finger work, or of color, fingering weight yarn, held double. And so you can see you've always got 2 strands going across here. So I felt like this was heavy and this was just too flimsy. So I did double it over, and then my friend Chris crocheted the edge of the neckline down to the stitches below for me, and it really gave a nice seam, and it kept it up tighter. I did also come down a few stitches from what the neck should be. I tightened it up a little bit, because I wanted it a little bit closer to me, and then. So then what I should have done was just, this is now my main color. This is now my contrast color, and done the charts for that. But instead, in my mind, I had never switched the color. So I did the color work chart and the mosaic chart for the light background and the dark color. So I have got way darker color up here in this color work than what I should have, because I did the opposite chart. And it doesn't make any difference. I actually kind of like it, because you'll see, I'll stand up again, but you'll see as I go down, it's actually, it really made it striking up here. And then when I did have to flip it, because it wasn't going to end up right at the bottom, because at the bottom in my mind, this whole time, I thought I was going to be having this white be the bottom of the sweater and the sleeves, and just have a different color up here. I don't know what I was thinking. Honestly, I'm called the Spatially Challenged Knitter. Oh, I've got a little snag on there, I think. And it's not something I've made up. I cannot do things. And so I this whole time I pictured this being white and this being green for some unknown reason. Even as I'm doing this, I'm still picturing it backwards in my brain. And so you can see down here at the bottom, the color work is less intense because I had to finally switch to the opposite chart at the bottom, or I wouldn't have, I have the green here and I had to switch to the lighter chart. And so you can see it's not as intense, which I kind of like because it almost gives it a little ombre effect where it's not as intense and it kind of eases up and then it goes to the green. And since the green is a little variegated in the color anyway, and you can see it does stripe. And I did do helical knitting. I did where I was doing from 2 different balls of yarn so that I wouldn't get as much striping, but this is just the way the yarn is. So anyway, I truly like the project that I ended up with, and I like the fit of the garment, but this didn't follow the pattern the way it was quite imagined. The other option that she gave you was to do this braid, this float, she called it the float braid. And you could either do the float braid or you could do, she said you could just do pearls. If I ever made this pattern again, and I truly do like the pattern, I think I would do the pearls versus the float braid, because even though this took forever. It took like up here at this part, it took like 6 hours to do each strand of the float braid for me because I was not fast at this. Then when I got to here, I was a little bit faster. Well, then when I got to here, and I got the full width of the sweater now, it took forever. And I was fast by this point in time. And it's not the neatest looking thing to me, where the rest of my color work and my mosaic is pretty neat. And this to me is just a little bit not as neat. And I think I would like the pearls better. So anyway, she gives you a ton of options on this sweater. The other thing that I did, and I had to kind of make this up as I was going, was I think I was way off in row gauge. My stitch gauge was right on, but I think I was way off in row gauge, and I often am. And so because we were knitting on like two and a half needles or something like that, or two and 3/4 needles, whatever the size is after a straight 2, whichever the next one is. It took forever because it was fingering weight yarn, and then it was knit on toothpick needles. And I'm not a small person. And so each one of these little teeny stitches here is, a little stitch on a toothpick needle. And so this sweater took me, I think I probably have like 150 hours of knitting in this sweater. So it was a commitment. And I'm very happy with the decisions that I made. I decided to go with the smaller yoke. I took her advice, which was if you have more than a 4-inch bust difference between your upper bust measurement and your full bust measurement, you should do a smaller size that goes with your upper bust measurement. Well, I never go completely down, but I go to the one up above my upper bust measurement. So I did that. And then I still, because I was off in my row gauge, I didn't, instead of being down in here in this part of the pattern, so the pattern was more further down on the sweater and further down on my arms, I couldn't split off for sleeves. I had done the whole chart and was done with the color work, and I still couldn't split off for sleeves because I wasn't down low enough. I mean, I might have been but I don't like my sleeves up tight in my arms. So I had to add. So this is the pattern, the way it's supposed to be, but there's only supposed to be a couple rows on each side of the float braid. There's not supposed to be this separation the way there is. So I added an inch on either side of the float braid of solid green. And that gave me the depth that I needed for my armhole. And I could put on hold for the sleeves then. And because I didn't want that to be exactly the float braid to be exactly in my armhole, because I thought there might be some wear, and because that's a thing of yarn, going across. I didn't want to like have the float braid rub and be right in my armpit, and then not be wearing as well as it should after I'd spent all that bazillion hours doing it. So I did go down a little bit further on the bottom as well. And then I increased when I got to my full bust and went up to the next size, which was my full bust size. And so I added that in around the sleeves and at the bottom by increasing, so that I have the ease that I wanted in my full bust, because I didn't, with a pattern on and being larger busted, I certainly did not want to have it tight as well. I would not have been comfortable wearing it. So anyway, so I did that. And so that was a choice that I had to make. Then I had that ombre effect because I had to switch to the actual chart I should have been working on all along. So the bottom color work is much lighter in contrast to the top color work. And you can see what I mean now. You can see how much of a difference there is by following the dark chart versus the light chart. I mean, seriously, my brain, I had no intention of doing this and I did it. So, and then I made a decision, since I had added so much onto the sleeve, I decided to make the cuff come in quite a bit and make it more of a loose kind of blousey sleeve. And then at the bottom, I did not go down a size for the bottom ribbing. I kept the same needles so that it wouldn't pull in at all, and it flared out. And then I did Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, and did that so that I could get it on and off very easily. So it is done, and I couldn't be more pleased. Obviously there are mistakes. It's my knitting, but overall I feel like I did very well for my first 3/4 of the body colorwork mosaic sweater, and I really, really enjoyed the experience until I got to the everlasting stockinette at the bottom, and I was knitting. But I was able to, I took this with me to Scotland thinking I was going to finish it on the plane on the way over and I'd have it to wear on the whole trip. Well, we ended up with extremely unseasonably warm weather in Scotland, in Shetland. And so I wouldn't have worn it anyway. So I did wear it the last day in Edinburgh, finished it, was able to wear it on the last day in Edinburgh, and we had a cold and rainy day. I was able to wear it on the cold and rainy day. It was wonderful, and so it made its appearance in Scotland, and it's going with me on my Christmas knitting cruise, my holiday knitting cruise. So I'm very, very happy with it, and would strongly suggest that you look at the projects, because if you look at Zanete's photo of the Ewe Yoke 2, it's a yellow and pink one, and it's got the color changing yarn in it, and it's really kind of hard not to see the pattern, because you can see the pattern, but then when you look at like a sweater like mine, or you look at some of the other sweaters that are on there, it really changes the way the pattern appears with the choice of the yarn. And I mean, obviously it would do that, but this pattern I feel like really, really does, depending on whether you use the color changing or not. And it's really cool to see. People did all sorts of different things. Some people did kind of like a diamond coming down this way because they didn't want this straight across the sleeve. By the time I got there, I didn't mind the straight across the sleeve. I thought I had planned to do the diamond the whole time from the first time I saw it, and I decided not to because I liked actually the way the sleeve was. So I strongly suggest that you take a look at this, take a look at her beautiful patterns. I'll put a link to the pattern in the description box below, and that you check out some of her designs, because she is an incredible designer, and I believe she'll be doing the Ewe Yoke 3 starting either January or February this year. So if you want to participate and make a sweater that you don't know what you're going to get in the end, you might want to try and give Zanete's patterns a look, and keep an eye out, sign up for her newsletter, keep an eye out for Do You Yoke 3, which should be coming up. Okay, I'm gonna pause here and take off the sweater before I die, and I will be right back. Okay, one last thing before I go. There are a couple things that I have to fix on the inside. When you got to the bottom, you were supposed to do ladderback jacquard to catch your floats, because we had a long space in between some of these floats. I kept forgetting I had done ladderback jacquard and knitting the ladderback jacquard as a part of the pattern. And so I was messing it up so badly that I ended up going back. I was not going to go back and rip out the float braid and rip out back this color work. So I just decided I'm just going to rip the ladderback jacquard out. And so now I'm going to have to go back and tie some knots and weave the ends in. And and that was my one thing that I will say I did take away from, I'm going to be talking later on in the video about my knitting trip to Shetland, but I have been taught like all along, and I don't know where, but I just kind of picked it up that, you are not supposed to tie knots. Like, knitters don't tie knots. They weave in their ends and they don't tie knots. Well, when we went to Shetland and we were taking classes from knitters there, they all tied knots on their color work. And it was like, what? Wait, you're tying knots. And they looked at me like I was great. Yeah, we're tying knots. And it's like, well, I thought you weren't supposed to tie knots. And they were like, who told you that? We all tie knots. And it's like, okay. So this is not a worldwide thing in knitting that you're not supposed to tie knots. For some reason, I don't know, people in the United States, maybe, I don't know, in North America, have this thing against tying knots, and you don't have to. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that because I'm going to go back in and tie some knots off on my couple of floats that I need to catch here in where the ladderback jacquard was, and weave in the ends and call it a day. So anyway, I was really proud, honestly, of the inside, and I do want to show you, my floats are so good on the inside. So you can see where each one of these is for those who may be crocheters and don't have floats or something, or haven't done color work, you can see the way that they stretch across, and they do stretch. They're not tight. There's a couple rows down in here that are a little tighter than some, but overall, I was very, very proud of my color work. So anyway, big, huge sweater project done and off the needles finally. So this should be called the episode where I finish the color work, although I've got some projects in the works in progress that are more color work. So finish some of the color work. So my next finished object I don't actually have with me. It's still in Shetland, and it will be in Shetland for the next 18 months. And then hopefully it will be made into a beautiful object, which I'll show you in a minute. And it will come and make its way back across the ocean and come to California. So it is my Shetland Wool Week hat, which was called the Ower Toorie. And I made this original color out of Jamieson's and did all my color work. And here's one of my little swatch. So this was what my hat looked like. But I completed it. I wore it on the trip and was having a great time. It was in my pocket everywhere we went. Some of the really windy days and a couple of the rainy days where we were getting sprinkled on, I did wear the hat, but it was kind of warm, and so I didn't wear it as much as what I had thought. And because it was kind of warm, it made me realize, am I ever going to wear this in Southern California? No, absolutely not. I don't need a hat knit out of Jamieson's for our 50-degree winter freezing weather in California. So I decided, because we went to a very special place called Burra Bears. And so we were surprised when we went in there, we listened to Wendy, the owner, talk about how she had found some vintage sweaters, and how she had kept coming across them in thrift shops, and how she had made a bear for a friend of hers, and how she actually turned this into a business. And so we listened to her talk, and the whole time we knew that it was very, very hard to get your hands on a Burra bear. So we were completely floored when we were all presented with bears. And my bear, it's so cute. Here's its little tag, Burra Bears, and it's actually a she. And it says that she's an original handmade Burra bear, started life as a Fair Isle jumper, which has been made, recycled and been made into Lida o Papil. So Lida is my bear's name, and then o Papil is a place in Shetland that was very, very close actually to Burra. And you can see, like, on the back, look how cute this is. So this is one of her patchwork ones where she's taken different sweaters and she's put them together. And you can see how carefully they're matched, even though they're all from different sweaters, but what the process is for her matching. And it's just incredible. And so we were all given a bear. Well, as part of her talk, she was saying that people will give her, she does do lace bears as well. She does, she takes people's things let's say you might have a sweater that's been made from a grandmother or something, and you want to pass it down. It's got a hole in it, so it's not wearable as a sweater anymore, but you can have it made into bears. So we were sitting in there and she said, yeah, people send me things all the time. And I said, what? They send you things? And she said, yeah, people will send me sweaters, jumpers, hats that their families made, and I will make them into bears. And so I said, oh, like a Shetland wool week hat? And she said, well, yes, they do. And she said, I'm really not taking more orders at the current time because I'm 18 months out. And so I said, oh, okay. And she said, why did you want to leave that and have it made into a bear? And I said, yes, I really would love to, because it'll give me another memory of the trip. It'll be a little companion to my other bear. It'll give me a memory of the trip. And I truly enjoyed the process of knitting this hat. I hate to just give it away. And so she agreed to let me send the hat to her after I was done wearing it. She said, keep it for the trip and then send it to me at the end. And so our driver, David, thank you, David, took the hat and took it to Burra for me and dropped it off at Wendy's house. And so I know I'm 18 months out, but 18 months from now, she should be working on my hat and making me a little bear. And she's gonna have to use different fabric for some of it. And then it actually was a fairly decent sized hat. So I think she's gonna be able to get his front and the back out of the hat. And we'll see. So it'll be really interesting to see how it turns out. I have no idea how it's gonna turn out, but I will get a surprise in the mail a year and a half from now, 2 years from now, and my hat will just show up at my door in the form of a bear. So that was my second finished object and little story, which was my hat, which is still on Shetland in Burra, and will be sitting there waiting to be made into a bear. So that was finished object number 2. My finished object number 3 is for my sister-in-law, Pam. And I finished both of her Songbird mitts. And if you're a very, very careful viewer, you'll notice that these mitts are similar, but one of them seems a little lighter than the other. This one is much darker. This one is a little lighter. If you look at the cuffs, and you look at the birds, and it's the same yarn, exact same yarn, well, it is. So what I learned was color dominance, and how you have to hold the yarn, the same one on the bottom, and the same one on the top if you want the pattern to match exactly. So we're calling these the male, the brighter bird, and the female. The female's usually not as bright as the male in nature. And that this is a pair of nesting birds, because I obviously did not hold the yarn the same way. So when you do color work, you're holding your yarn. You hold both. I hold both strands of yarn in my right hand, and you're flipping it when you're knitting. So you're knitting with either the pink, in this case, the pink or the blue. Because the blue is the color work. No, I'm sorry. I can't remember. But anyway, the background color, your background color should be held, and my background color was the blue. So I held the pink on top. And so, no, I'm sorry, I held the pink on the bottom, because the one that goes on the bottom has the least amount to travel. The one that's on the top has to travel up and over. It comes from behind, so it has to travel more. So on one of them, I held the pink on the top, and on one of them, I held the pink on the bottom. And the pattern's the same, the stitches are in the right place, but you can definitely see that they are not matching. And that's what happens when you don't hold your yarn the same way. So pro tip now, obviously not a pro, but pro tip, write down how you hold your yarn, because if you're like me, I can't remember from one mitten to the next mitten, and you'll mess it up. So that's my little new thing that I have now for color work, is I write down which color is held on top, which color is held on the bottom. But I'm really happy with the way these turned out. They're super soft, super warm. They fit nicely, and I'm sending them to Pam to do a final block on them. So I'm sending them unblocked. This has not been blocked at all, because I want her to be able to, if she wants to stretch it a little bit more. I think her fingers are a little bit longer than mine, and her hand might be a little bigger than mine. So this way, if she wants to add a little bit, she can stretch it a little bit and pin it and block it on a towel. And that way she can make the mittens fit her exactly. But there's enough room in them that they can definitely be stretched and be shaped a little bit more. So that is my finished object number 3, which is the Songbird Mittens. And I'll put a link to the pattern below and the yarn information, because I don't have the yarn with me. But those are going in the mail to Pam so that she can block them before our trip in November. Okay, so let's talk about works in progress. The first one that I have going is, a couple podcasts ago, I showed you my poor, pathetic shawl. And this is the Hedgehog Fibers. It's called the Electric Sheep. This was one of my absolute favorite scarf shawl things that I've ever made. I wear it all the time, wore it all the time. I like to wear it with a blue shirt like this. I wore it with my black leather jacket. I like it on just a black sweater, on a pale gray sweater. I just love this scarf. What I didn't like so much is it is super, so what I did, I decided I'd be lazy one day, and I can just throw this in the washing machine instead of hand washing it, which I had always done up until this point. I made it like 2 years ago, and it felted badly on cold. It was not washed on warm, it was on cold, and it felted. My fault, but you can see if you look at this, how asymmetric the shawl is. And it's got these kind of weird, like bump things that come out because of the way that the you make increases on it. So it's got these two kind of bumpy things, and then this side is so much shorter than this side, that when you go to wrap it around, it would barely come around my neck. And for mine, it was, see how has to wear the point completely off to the side to get this to come down this low on her neck. If the point's in the front, it's really up here, and it constantly comes undone because it was so asymmetrical. So when I decided to do it, I decided to make it again exactly the same way, same yarn. Ordered the new yarn from Hedgehog Fibers. It's their tweed. Oh gosh, let's see. It's their tweed yarn. Bum, bum, bum. Let me look. Tweedy. And it's in 3 colors. It's Original, which is the light color, Soot, which is the gray color, and Noir, which is the black color. So I ordered the yarn from them. This is all I have left of the original 1 skein. And I ordered an extra skein of the original because what I decided was, if I'm gonna remake this, I wanna remake it to make it myself happy. Because you know, I'm the one that's wearing it, and if I'm gonna make it to suit me. So what I did was kind of just made it up as I went, but I made the original side, I just kept knitting, and I added a little bit, but then if I got past where I was supposed to do my increases, I just decreased back down. You can't see it in the shawl. And that way I was able to make this part of it considerably longer so that it's going to wrap around my neck way better than what it did before. So I've done the original, and I'm down to now where I'm doing the Noir and the original, or, I'm sorry, not the Noir, the Soot or whatever it was called, and then I get to the dark part. So I'm working on this. I would like to get this done to take with me in November, because this is one that I love to wear with just a shirt, if you just want a little bit of warmth, and with the leather jacket and a shirt, and this, you're toasty warm. So trying to get this done. And this is my Electric Sheep by Hedgehog Fibers, their pattern and their yarn. So reknitting that one. So that is work in progress number 1. And it's got a deadline. It's got to be done by mid-November. So it can come with me. Work number 2, work in progress, is my mittens. So I'm doing colorwork mittens for myself. Sorry, I refuse to like reprint this pattern because I don't want to waste paper. So you can see the wine stain when I dumped the full glass of wine down on the chart. Oh, sorry, this is a paper pattern. I shouldn't have showed you the chart. Oopsies, sorry. This is called Katie's Mittens, version 1.2. It's a pattern by Kristen Lamb, got it on Ravelry, and I'm making it to go with my Jose hood, which is a fuchsia yarn. And I started this when we were in Scotland. After I had finished my sweater, I started working on the colorwork mittens. And I've gotten just a little bit going on them. And then I have actually been working much more on my 3rd work in progress than these. So if I don't quite get these done, these are something that are easy that I can take on the plane with me and do them on the way over, and even on the first couple days of the trip. So I will have them for when we get to the cold parts, but I'm using the Fiver Company's, it says Cumbria Into the Hills, and it's called Cowberry. CUFO58 color, and I'm using, cannot see what the other one is. That's Cowberry. I'm not quite sure what the other one is. It's in here somewhere. Can't find the ball band, but I've got the pink and the white. So you can see the pink, fuchsia pink is the cowberry, and then the white. And it will be those beautiful flowers. And this one is a little different than the other one because you don't do ribbing on this outer part of the mitt. You do like a double knitted cuff once you get the whole mitten done, and you do it on the inside, and you stick a ribbed cuff out of the inside of it, which I did not notice when I looked at the picture, that this had an inner cuff that has a that has a ribbed cuff in the inside, but I guess that makes it snug up to your wrist and keeps any snow or water or cold out. So anyway, this is my my mittens for the trip, and it is my works in progress number 2 that I'm working on at the current time. And Katie's Mittens, volume 1.2. My last works in progress is a work, and it's progressing, but it's a work in progress, that's for darn sure. So I fell in love with a sweater, and I talked about this on an earlier podcast, and I actually wrote her name. This is called Daily Stuff, is the way my Google Translate translates this. And it's by, and I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce your name, Sanae. So I'm going to say this as Sanae, hopefully, Nasu, Nasu. And she is a Japanese designer. She has maybe like 2 or 3 projects on Ravelry that have been translated into English, but the majority of her projects on Ravelry are only available in Japanese. And this book is only published in Japanese. But I love her patterns, and I specifically love this sweater, this Christmas sweater. And you can go to this sweater on, it's called Fir Tree Cardigan. You can go to it as Fir Tree Cardigan with her name on Ravelry, and you can see some people have made this using the Japanese pattern. And so there are some notes in Ravelry. She only does this in one size because it's oversized on her. I guess she figures it would fit the majority of people that she wanted to design for, and she doesn't translate her patterns, so she's not offering her patterns in a lot of languages and grading them. So anyway, this was my choice to make this pattern, but I don't fit her one size. I'm 10 inches off on her one size. So not only do I get the pleasure of trying to decipher a Japanese pattern. I've never knit a Japanese pattern before. I also get to do a construction that I've never knit before, a bottom-up sweater, a cardigan, so bottom up, number 1, no, not in English, in a foreign language, number 1, in a foreign language where I can't read it at all because it's written in Japanese and can't read the characters. Because I usually can look at a language and kind of see a pattern in the language, and a lot of times I can semi-read a language. No, absolutely not. A bottom-up construction, a cardigan, never made made a little baby sweater cardigan, but never made an adult cardigan, never made one for myself. And this construction on this sweater is you knit the bottom portion of the sweater. So you knit the front panel, the entire back panel in separate pieces, and then another front panel. So you have 3 pieces for the bottom. And then you seam those together. And the translation literally says sew together using sewing thread, is what I can get out of it. Okay, so I think we're gonna do like a mattress stitch, I'm assuming. I don't know. And then you do this, each one of these panels is a color chart pattern. And each one of these panels, there's 8 panels, 2 sleeve panels, and then 6 body panels. And each one of these panels is done as a color work chart from the bottom up, and you're decreasing on your way up, and then you seam the panels together. But this is where we get a little dicey on here, because it doesn't tell you, or I can't find it, that her pattern is not, there is not a lot of hand holding in the pattern. She expects, I think you know how to knit, which, okay, in theory, but I don't. So I'm going into the yarn shop this week and going to ask what they think, whether I should pick up the stitches, because what I did is and then I decided, just to make it even more challenging, I'm not going to use the yarn that she calls for, because she called for Lopi. And I don't particularly like rustic, scratchy yarn. And to me, Lopi is rustic and scratchy. And so I decided I won't wear this. I'll knit it, but I won't wear it because it'll bug me that it's scratchy and I won't wear it. So I decided I'm going to knit it in a yarn that I like. And so I got 100% alpaca yarn. And so I've been knitting it in that. So I've got those challenges. So I'm not being spatially challenged. Also, it kind of goes along with my whole being mathematically challenged. And so these are my calculations, and there's some pictures. So it starts here. I'm doing like sweater math here, and it says the sweater width for the particular size that she did with her gauge is 38.5 inches is the width across it. So you double that and you get 38.5 is all the way around the diameter of her size. Well, I measured a sweater, a cardigan that I like to wear, and it was 60 inches. And so I needed to add width, obviously. So I went in, I made a swatch, I measured my gauge, I did math, multiplied it, figured out how many stitches I needed to add, and I'm using, it's called Heather Primo Alpaca, which I also got at Vogue Knitting Live in last January. Here's my swatch. And I did, I swatched on the regular size needles that she told me to, and then I swatched the next size up because I tend to be a tight knitter. But the next size up, I didn't like it. It was too open, and I didn't want that for a cardigan. So I went back down to the size needles that she called for, and I am right on for stitch gauge. I think I'm a little off on row gauge, but I figured it wouldn't matter. I would just knit it to the measurements of the cardigan that I liked and go from there. So I have finished the bottom, because it's a bottom up, and so I'm knitting those panels. I've finished the bottom ribbing, and I've knit the panel, and this is the back of the cardigan. So you can see it's going to go across the back and have ease, maybe a little more ease than what I thought it was going to have, but I have wet blocked it, and it's on the cord, and it's got a lifeline through it. And I went ahead and wet blocked it because I knew alpaca grew. And so I wanted to see how much it's going to grow, and how much is it going to grow lengthwise, and how much is it going to grow across. And so I've pre-measured it, pre-wet block, and then I've got to measure it. So the bottom part of the body up to the armpit, which that's where you start the yoke going up with the fir trees on it, is done. And I'm almost done with the right, or one of the front panels. It doesn't matter which one it is. You pick up for the button band for the cardigan afterwards and do a ribbed button band all the way around and a ribbed edging at the neck. So I've done the same thing to the front. I'm 30 rows of away from finishing this, so I'll finish this today and I'll cast on the other front tomorrow, and be working hopefully by the middle of next week on the yoke. So here's where I have to go into the yarn shop. Because this is a round yoke, and I know how many stitches I have to have, I know how many stitches I have on the body, so I know the diameter of my sweater here. The way the sweater is, I think the arm, the way the arm is, will fit me. I don't know that I have to add in extra, but I will have extra width on the panels because I have to make the panels match up with the body down here. So what I think I'm going to do to make this work and make it look very close to the original is I'm going to add some extra stitches at the end of each branch on the pattern. And I don't want to show you her chart, but I do want to show you just a little so you can see what I'm talking about. And you can see this, I've been doing math, and you can see how much I should have not written on that part of the pattern, but I did. So this is what, I want to put my hand over part of it because I don't want to give away her chart, but you can see how each one of these is, I'm going to be working from the bottom coming up. And then, so you can see each one of these is part of the pattern. And I'm just going to add, since I think I'll have 7 extra stitches on each side, I can take this edge of the leaf out on the tree, like 2 or 3 stitches on each side, and it'll bring it closer together so I won't have like a big gray stripe in between the branches of my tree. But what I don't know how to do is, do I knit? It says knit yoke for my instructions. And I'm like, oh my God, so what does that mean? Do I knit each one of these panels, 6 of them, and then the 2 sweater or 2 sleeve ones, and then seam them all together? Do I knit it and then pick up along the edge and start the next one so that they're actually together as I'm doing it? Do I pick up the stitches at the top of this and knit the yoke up so that I don't have to seam all of this way too? I don't know. I don't know what the best way of construction is. And with the little amount of instructions I'm able to get off this pattern, I'm going to have to go into the knitting shop and talk to someone who's knit things before and can tell me what they think I should do. Because I'm going to have to start the color work chart for the top of it next week. And I don't know what to do. What would be the best way to do it? So fingers crossed, this is going to go well. And somebody had like a genius idea when I first showed this pattern as one that I bought the book and I was just jonesing to make this sweater. They said, you know, when you do make the sweater, it would be a lot more versatile and you would probably get a lot more use out of it if you would not do the little red booty as a part of the sweater, do it separately, and then you can just tack it on when you want to wear it for a Christmas sweater, and then you can take it off if you just want to wear it as a fall sweater. And it's like, oh yeah, like you could totally wear this as a fall sweater too, and it would be really cute, and you could even add like a little pumpkin or something if you wanted to, you know, at the end of the fir tree, and then have this be your Christmas one. So I do have the yarn for this, and I'm going to make this so that I can just tack it on, because I will be wearing it on a Christmas market cruise. And this is my cardigan that I'm taking with me. This will be like one of my dinner dressier outfits for the ship. And it is a much, I think, dressier cardigan because it's not in the Lopi, because this does have a little bit of a halo. It doesn't have too much. You can see though, it does have a little teeny bit of a halo, but it's not too much. You'll still see the color work very well, I think. But it's just drapey. It's more drapey. It's not, that stiff, scratchy, more casual Lopi. I think this is just a dressier looking sweater. So I'm really happy with how this is turning out. Although I will say it does show every little, you can see like I dropped down here where I had messed up a stitch, and you can see a little track of it. And this has been blocked. So, but it's me and it's my knitting. So it's going to be like that. So anyway, that is my fir tree cardigan by Sanai Nasu, and it's from her book, and she has incredible patterns. Look at this one. I want to make this one. I'm going to see how well I do on this first one, and then I want to make this one. It's just garter stitch, but look how elegant that looks for just rows of garter stitch going this way instead. And you can see where she's got them. It's been like bands of garter stitch going across. I think she's got great designs. So anyway, hopefully this turns out well, and I can do another one of her patterns in the future. So this is my object number 3, my work in progress number 3 that I have been working on for the most part, because I wanted to get the body done and get to the yoke, because it's not a hard pattern. It's not a hard chart at all. But it's just going to take some time, and it's going to take some time to do the seaming too. So I really wanted to give myself enough time. I started this the last week in September, I think. I wanted to give myself enough time that it's done and hopefully blocking by the end of October. And because I'm going on a Christmas market cruise that starts November, I'm going to say maybe 20th-ish. And I'm flying over there. I think it's November. I'm meeting my sister-in-law, November 15th, I think. So I have to get it done. And so I wanted to give myself a little cushion in case, any of the knitting takes longer than what I think. But I have got to keep going on it because I'm on a deadline. So anyway, those are my big 3 projects. And so my next one is a little bit of kind of trip wrap up and some acquisitions. So if you are only here for the knitting and that doesn't interest you, thank you for coming, and I will see you hopefully the end of October-ish with some finished projects to show you, or maybe beginning of November, because I probably won't podcast again until I have my 3 works in progress finished, so that I can show you some finished objects. And if you want to stick around, I'm going to talk to you about what it's like to go on a knitting trip, and show you some of the things, talk to you about what we did, and show you some of the things that I got at the different places that we went. So hopefully you're going to stick around, that interests you, and I will give you an idea, if you've never been on a knitting trip before, what it's like to go on one. Okay, see you back here in a minute. So I went on a trip with a company out of Canada called SPJ, or South Pacific Journeys. And Michelle is the name of the lady who is the owner of South Pacific Journeys and puts together the trips. And she is, everyone that was on, just as a coincidence, everyone that was on the trip with me to Shetland, we went to Shetland to go, and Edinburgh. We started in Edinburgh, then flew to the Shetland Islands, stayed on the Shetland Islands, and then flew back and came home out of Edinburgh. And anyway, I've been on 2 knitting trips. The first one that I went on was through Vogue Knitting. It was a Vogue Knitting tour, and it was to Copenhagen and Norway and some other place that I can't remember right now. And it was a great trip. I had a wonderful time. I thought it was a wonderful trip. I have to say, I enjoyed this trip a little bit more than the Vogue Knitting trip, and I wanted to tell you why. On trips, and I guess this is because normally Pam and I, when my sister-in-law and I, Pam, travel together for the most part, and we put together our trips ourselves. So we decide we want to go someplace, we look up things, we decide what we want to see, we do some experiences, we do some shopping, we do museums. What we don't do is a lot of hiking, because neither one of us are hikers. I have 2 incredibly bad knees, and Pam has a bad knee now as well. And so we are not big walker hikers. And we're a little bit older now too. So we don't do as much as we did in the past. But what we do is we put together the itinerary ourselves. So when you give up that piece of it, I find that sometimes trips can be kind of a little bit hectic for my tastes. I don't get to, I'm always having to leave someplace and be someplace else. And I don't necessarily have the amount of time that I would like to spend someplace. And I really did not feel this with Michelle and South Pacific Journeys trip. There was enough time. We felt like and when I say we, there were 6 people on our trip, a husband and 5 knitters, and one of them being Michelle. And the other people were all Canadian, and I was the only American. So they made me an honorary Canadian. I have a little maple leaf pin that they put on me, and made me an honorary Canadian during the trip. But it was, Michelle did a wonderful job of making the trip very wool-oriented, knitting-oriented, crocheting-oriented. We were all knitters. Some people did crochet, but we were, for the most part, all knitters. And she did a great job of including places that we would want to see, museums, sheep farms, a wool auction, and knitting classes, and also being of interest to the non-crafting husbands or spouses or significant others that would come on a trip with you. And I think she did a really good job of that. And she also got in local experts, like when we were exploring around the islands in Shetland, we went with an archaeologist. He's a crofter, he's an archaeologist, his name is Chris. And so he was there to explain when we're going to a Viking ruin and we're looking at a Viking ruin, it was nice to have the archaeologist along with you to be able to give you the information and talk to you about what you were seeing. And we went to 3 different sheep farms, and every sheep farm that we went to, there was a specific reason why that specific farm had been chosen. And it was 3 completely different ways about thinking about sheep and looking at sheep and what they were trying to do with the sheep that they owned. But they also had things in common. But there was enough of a difference that you learned different things at the different places that you went. So I feel like Michelle really has her choices very cleverly made, as far as like she's got the experts in there, she's got the connections, and not to say that Vogue didn't, because they do, they did have wonderful things. But I also felt like it was less, I had more time. I didn't feel as rushed. She gave us some downtime, and she gave us some free afternoons. So the Canadians were all voracious hikers and walkers, and so they would take off and go walk and then put photos up on the WhatsApp. And so I got to see things that I would have never hiked up to because we had the group photos too. So it was a great trip and a wonderful group of people. Hello, if they're watching, I hope they are. Because it was a thoroughly enjoyable trip. So I wanted to show you a couple things that I was able to acquire at the different places, and kind of talk about, I guess, why I felt like they were kind of cool, and why, because I do feel like collecting yarn, they say that knitting is a separate hobby, or crochet is a separate hobby from the actual collecting of yarn too. And I do feel that in a certain way, because you look at the yarn that you bought and you remember the places that you were when you bought the yarn, and you remember, like, it's a souvenir from the trip. So anyway, the first place that the first sheep farm that we went to was called Uredale Farms, and it was a beautiful organic sheep farm, and it was run by a person who is trying to bring back the original Shetland sheep, and the smaller sheep with the original yarn that they, the original wool that they had. And you can see they're smaller, they have different ears, they have a different yarn. And it's not as, it is, I would say, the wooliest of the yarn that I ever purchased. And so what was nice there was we learned about organic sheep farming. We learned about what it's like to bring back the Shetland sheep, how the crossbreed sheep that we're getting now, how it's very labor intensive for the farmer, because they're crossbreeding sheep of different sizes together. And so they have a lot more problems when they're lambing, where these Shetland sheep, they can just leave them and they lamb outside, and they very rarely ever have any problems with the lambs. And because they don't have to have extra feed unless it's a really bad time. They don't have to be brought inside unless it's a really bad time, because they're bred to be in the conditions where they live. So it was really interesting. So he talked to us about that. And then his partner was a linguist, and he speaks, I want to say his name was Mark? I'm not sure. No, David. I think his name was David. And anyway, he speaks Norn, which is a mixture of the indigenous language that was there in Shetland. And I think she said it was the Vikings, the Norsemen that came over. And because Shetland Islands have been cut off for so long and don't get as much traffic, they've been able to keep their kind of linguistic purity. So his partner came over to actually study the language, and ended up she knits, and she started designing for the farm. And so he's got I bought some of her patterns, the shawl patterns. I'm always a sucker for a good shawl. And I also bought some old Wool Week. We were just a little too early. We missed Shetland Wool Week. And so I was able to get a couple of the previous publications from Shetland Wool Week. And I also got one of her original designs. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna go out of the camera. And have her design and some of the yarn. Now, normally I don't make woolly wool sweaters, but there was something about this wool. It was woolly wool, but it wasn't quite as scratchy as what a Jameson seems to me. It's not quite as heavy as what the Jameson seems to me. And when we could, she had a sample of the sweater in there. This is her original design. It's called Ripples. So I love this sweater, and it looked like it would be not too warm, and it also looked like it would also be easy to knit, and I just think it's so attractive. So I got it, and I'm making it in exactly the same color. So here's the natural. It looks almost greeny in this light, but it's gray. And then here's two of the blues that you can see that run across in the color bands. And so this was from Uredale Farms. This is their yarn, the Uredale Farms yarn. And it's called Jumper Weight. I think it's fingering, I'm not sure. Let's see, hand wash, needle size 3 millimeters. 50 grams is 173 meters, which tells me nothing. So anyway, but I think it's a fingering. And so that is my first souvenir yarn that I got from our organic sheep farm. And you can call them and arrange to visit the farm if you're going to Shetland. And I really would recommend it. He was super interesting. She was super interesting. They have a little shop off of their house, so you could go in and see their yarn, see their patterns, and it was amazing. I really, truly enjoyed it. We got to pet the sheep. It was great. So that was my sheep farm yarn #1. And my patterns and my souvenir. Oh no, it was actually, my first purchase was actually in Edinburgh. So we were supposed to be there during Scottish Wool Week, but unfortunately there was a mix-up with the venue, and she had to change the date of Scottish Wool Week this year because of her venue issue. And so they held it the week before we got there. But the lovely Eva from Scottish Wool Week came to our hotel, brought yarn for us because we missed the Scottish Wool Week, talked to us about what it was like to start Scottish Wool Week, to continue to grow it, and to put on a festival like that, and just kind of talked about what it's like to organize something like that. And so I want to show you, I bought 2. She had yarn as well as samples. And so I bought enough for 2 things. The yarn is called the Scottish Yarn Festival, and it's DK. It's 80% Shetland, 20% Cheviot, and it says slow grown in Scotland, mill spun in Yorkshire, transformed by you. And then this is Bruce. The color is Bruce. And so Bruce, she had a vest made out of a little bit, might have been the exact same as this. And I wrote the vest pattern down. I think I have a picture of it as well. If I do, I'll put the picture in here so you can see what I'm going to make, because I am making the same exact vest. It was beautiful. And this is not, it's woolly wool, but it is not scratchy at all. Like, you can rub it all over you and it's not scratchy and itchy. And this is going to be for a vest that I would wear always over a t-shirt or a button-down blouse. So absolutely no problem with it at all. And then I got a second color that I'm going to make a sweater in. And this is called Duncan. And this is also Scottish Yarn Festival DK. And I have a pattern that I picked for this sweater that I know I wrote down. I'm trying to remember what it is and I cannot remember. But I bought it for me to make a sweater. So anyway, this was the lovely Eva. This was my first purchase, which was in Edinburgh. It was our first day of the excursion. And once again, this is what I was talking about Michelle doing such a great job because, we were all disappointed because, it was like, oh man, we thought we were going to the yarn festival. And it, totally out of her control. Not something that she could fix and not something that, Eva could fix. Totally out of her control that there was a fluke thing with the venue. So, things happen. You've got to be flexible when you travel and things change. And so, she was able to still give us, it wasn't the Scottish Yarn Festival, but it was a great, she spent like 2 hours talking to us. And, then we had plenty of time to shop. We had lunch with her and it was a wonderful time. And we got our cool 10th anniversary Scottish Yarn Festival bags. And I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I think there was something else, but I can't remember offhand right now. So anyway, that was our first one before we went to our first sheep farm. Then we went to Jameson's, and we went to both. I didn't realize there were two Jamesons. One is like Jameson's and Sons, or Jameson's and Co. And then there's another one called Jameson's of Shetland. And this whole time I've always thought Jameson's was Jameson's, and it's not. So anyway, we did go. I got this really cool, I love this. It's a backpack, and it's so cool because it's a project bag, but you can, it's a backpack, you can put it on. It's got a little zipper thing right here. You could shove a wallet in down here, or notions or whatever you wanted. It's got some pockets in the interior, and it's just, I thought it was cute, a little cute souvenir, and a great way to remember Jameson's. And I didn't buy any Jameson's yarn because I had just bought some, the Woolly Thistle had sales on packages of different colors of Jameson's, and I had bought 2 of those to do color work for socks. And I was like, I just bought all that Jameson's. I really don't need it. But everyone else in the group who lives in Canada and actually needs woolly wool and was in heaven and went, and I helped people pick some Jameson's wool and enabled them. Oh, you really need that. And so I had a great time in Jameson's, and I did find, incredibly, the one in downtown Lerwick, the one right in the middle of town, had, which is Jameson's of Scotland, of Shetland, Jameson's of Shetland, had some ready-made sweaters in their shop as well. And so they had, just on a fluke, I was wandering around while people were shopping in there, because I was walking around with some people and, just waiting for them to pick their yarn out and get their purchases done. And I found some children's sweaters that were on sale, and it was an incredible deal. I got both of my grandsons fully done colorwork sweaters out of Jameson's. Now, they're machine knit, but hey, they're beautiful. And they were 32 pounds or 35 pounds, I forget. But it's like, I could not buy the yarn, I could not make the yarn, and there were so many colors in these sweaters to buy all the yarn that I would have to buy and then knit both sweaters. I couldn't do it for the price of those sweaters that were already made, and they were on sale. They were clearing out these sweaters. So it's like, well, okay, so I got each of the boys a sweater. It was great. So anyway, highly recommend if you're in downtown Lerwick. There's a few yarn shops in downtown Lerwick. Some that sell yarn, some that sell ready-made things, and they're all really great. So I would say explore. So my next, so then we went to, we went to Chris's croft, and his was the second farm that we went to. And he has a lot of, not yarn for sale, but he has fleeces that you could purchase. And he also had some cute note cards that have pictures of his sheep on them. And so I bought some of his note cards, and we saw his sheep, and we learned about what it's like to live on a croft and what it's like to be a sheep farmer, to like the hours and stuff, and what it's like to be a sheep farmer. And then, and what his passion was, which was he was trying to make sheep that had multiple colored markings on them. And he's also working on bringing back Shetland sheep, but he's also working with crossing different ones to have multiple colored fleeces. And so that was kind of his passion. He's also a dry stonemason and an archaeologist. So he is the one that did come around with us after we visited his croft, he came around with us for the next 2 days when we kind of explored from the very northern part of the Shetland Islands down to the southern part of the Shetland Islands. And he kind of took us all over the place and told us what we should know and some of the history of the island. So that was super interesting. We went to Burra. You saw the Burra bear. We also went to a knitting shop where the knitting is done on machines, but it's all original designs. And the name of the place is called Nielanel. And it's in a little town, and we met Hazel Tyndall, and she is one of the fastest knitters in the world, or the fastest knitter in the world. And we got to talk to her about knitting, what it was like to grow up and learn to knit as a child. She works in the schools now to help kids learn how to knit. And so we got to talk to her about what it was like to grow up in Shetland and what it was like to, she brought in some of her family's knitwear, things that her grandmother had knit, things that, that have been passed down in her family. And it was just incredible to get to see the traditions and to hear about the traditions. And then we went, and I thought these were really interesting. This is a cowl, but the way she designs, look at this. Well, this is a flap that goes over on the cowl. I'm not going to put it on because I'll just destroy myself doing it. But it's a jagged. So I thought, first of all, I thought it was really cool, and I liked it. And I like the way that it's double-sided, so you can have this flap come over and you've got the blue coming down in the pink. And then the other thing, and you've got this, so you can wear it kind of like over your shoulder, and you've got the split, or you can wear it with the split down in front. And it's just interesting. And then I thought, well, I could take a cool cowl pattern that I like, and I could do like something that would look good on the front and the back. It could be garter stitch, it could be mosaic knitting, maybe. I don't know. I just thought I could experiment with that and kind of use the same pattern and stitch it up, not together the way hers is, and kind of steal her design idea, but then make it my own. So I bought the cowl because, first of all, I love it. And second of all, I wanted to actually maybe try to stitch something up not evenly and have this be a design feature. I just thought it was cool. So Nielanel. And then the second thing that I got there was this incredibly cool, which is the second sweater I'm bringing on the river cruise that I'm going on in December. And it's a sweater that I got from Nielanel. So it was the most traditional thing in the shop, but traditional with a twist. So here's your traditional, but then you have coming out, coming out of the bottom of the cuff, a little thing with the orange. In the inside of the neck of the inside of your neck, you've got this. If you wanted to, you could turn the inside of the neck so that it looked like this, and you could wear it like this, or you can have it like this. So I just thought it was a really nice, warm basic for when we're out during the day or out at night and it's cold, and because we're outside to go to the Christmas markets across Europe, and thought it would be really cool to have my one really nice warm sweater to take with me to wear out at nights. And didn't want to make a heavy thing like this myself, and loved this and tried it on and it fit. And so it's like, okay, well, it's meant to be. When you try it on and it fits and you love it, it's meant to be. So bought this as well at the knitting shop. So that was my sweater that I purchased. And then, let's see, what else do I have? Oh, we went to some, in Shetland, we went to Dot Gilpin, and she is a very famous designer of knitwear. If you haven't heard of her, I suggest you give Ravelry a visit or Instagram. Well, I don't know if she's on Instagram as much, but her patterns are, she's a prolific designer, and you'll see her patterns. She's very famous. She works a lot with high fashion too, where she designs for high fashion designers, and they'll make, like she said, like 25 pieces or something of the design, and it's all hand knit. And then they, once that design is done, that's it. Once it's sold, that's it. They only make that. And then she's also got her line of yarn and her sweaters. And so I did buy, this is her brand new color, and she was just releasing it. It's not very common in the United States. And I knew it was going to take a while to find this color and not have it be sold out in the United States. So I did order this from her, and I got a sweater's quantity, and I tried on the sweater in her shop, and I have it in Ravelry, and was able to actually, like, I had the sweater on in her shop. Okay, I want to make the arms longer because she's much shorter than I am, or whoever made the sample was much shorter. I needed room in the arms, and I needed room on the body because it was very cropped on me, and I don't like cropped things. So I make the rest of it, I'm making per pattern, and I will try and put a picture of that up so you can see what it is. But so I'm using her new color, which is called, this is Dye Gilpin Lowland DK, Lalland, Lowland DK, and 100% lamb's wool, spun in Scotland, proudly made in Scotland. And the color is, not see, oh, sea glass. That's her new color. And it says 25 stitches and 30 rows in stockinette on 3.75 millimeter needles. I have no idea what that is in the US. I feel like it's, I don't know. I have no idea. But anyway, I have the sweater picked out because I want to make the exact one that she made this out of. And we had so much fun looking at the samples, listening to her. Another great speaker, and very interesting for like the non-knitters. She talked about being in the fashion industry, what it's like to work with people in the fashion industry, what it's like to create things and then to hand knit and craft in this day and age, in what and how, you know, knitwear, you can do that still. You can have it be paid for what's a fair rate for like a high fashion item. Then she talked about what it was like to work for these people, and also that it wasn't always at a fair rate, and how they've kind of like how she's grown through her career to get to the point where she can command a fair rate and be paid for her work and her designs. And so it was a super interesting talk to get to the point where she was and to have her experience. And she and her right-hand woman, I want to say Sheila, I think what's her right-hand assistant's name was Sheila. They are judges on a British show called A Game of Wool. And it's like one of those, like the British baking show, where you go into a thing and they give you challenges and then the judges have to judge your thing. Well, it's about knitting. And so they had contestants that had to go through a thing of knitting. And she couldn't tell us a lot, but she did say it was coming out in November on the British channels. So hopefully we're going to get it on one of the, like Acorn or BritBox or one of those after it airs in Britain. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we'll be able to see that soon. Or because we're going to go through Britain on our way there and way back, I might be able to scope it out in December when we're in London. So I'm hoping, because that sounded great. So she and Di and Sheila were judges on the show. So anyway, that was another of our wool producers. And then our third sheep farm, she had a cute little shop that was there, and she did have some wool, but I purchased some like cute stuff from her shop, but I did not purchase wool from her. I was really trying to be very mindful because I have a stash that is just incredibly out of control. And I'm really trying to be very mindful of what I bring into it. I probably won't stop buying yarn completely because you'll see that skein, but I really am trying to only get things that I have a project in mind for, and that I really want to have that because it will make me remember something when I make that particular project.